Frontiers and Pioneers, in association with Sempra LNG.
Gas is our future. Monetizing LNG is going to be our path to prosperity in Africa.
Hello and welcome to LNG TV in today's episode of Frontiers and Pioneers. It is our honour to welcome NJ Ayuk to today's show. NJ is Executive Chairman of the Africa Energy Chamber, CEO of Centurion Law Group, also an author. NJ has written a number of books, including Big Barrels and more recently, Billions at Play, The Future of African Energy and Doing Deals. He is one of the most influential men in Africa, according to Forbes magazine. He's a passionate champion of gas and its potential to fuel long-term economic and social development and the energy transition across Africa. NJ, welcome to the programme. Delighted to have you. How are things?
Thank you so much for having me. And I hope you're staying safe and I hope everything is well in the United Kingdom.
Welcome, NJ. Africa is blessed to have abundant energy resources. Why over the long term is gas specifically so important in Africa's energy mix?
I think gas, we have to look at the environment we live in right now. I've always said if we were going to discover oil and gas resources again, I would have preferred Africa discovers gas, because with gas, we can really build a bigger economy. So what we've seen with the oil economy has not really worked for Africa, and we have to be honest about it. And it's not a criticism of my industry that I love so much, but when you look at gas, you start seeing we could have done more with industrialization. We could have done more with monetization. So take, for example, the ability to move from taking gas to power Africa, a continent where 2/3 of the people don't have any kind of energy access. The ability of gas to build real industries like, for example, it's a product that you can have other byproducts like urea, ammonia, NPK, fertilizer plants, and that could drive agriculture and that could drive important bases. Gas is really important now more than ever when you look at climate change issues. We all have to admit to see where the world is going right now, and the climate is very important that we protect. So when you look at gas, you see this bridge fuel, you see this transition fuel that is cleaner, better, and Africa with an abundance of it, it really makes a lot of sense for us to capitalize, monetize on gas, and gas is so important to Africa. Than in the past where we just did not pay attention to gas.
And NJ, regarding LNG specifically, do you think that Africa will continue to grow as a global LNG hub over the next few decades?
It is going to grow more because let's get back to it. We saw gas as a disaster 25 years ago. Today, it is a bonanza. So you still could see that gas could really change it. What are you seeing? You're seeing new discoveries of gas, new wells that were shut in and they really did not pursue more in places like Gabon, in places like Congo. The IOCs and explorers are going right back to drill for gas because they do see a market. So I think market forces are really going to determine how gas is going to be important and more investment and more development for gas. But we got to be very careful. We are facing an era where we're seeing a seismic shift in investment in fossil fuels, and that affects gas. So if we don't have the right kind of investment, the right kind of financing into developing gas resources, exploring for gas, then you're going to see this African potential bonanza is going to be a miss. And we cannot let that miss in around Africa at this time. I mean, big thing right now, I think a few days ago, the IEA put out a big statement where they talked about fossil fuels. You know, they need to stop exploration right now. It sounds good, it feels good, but we need to separate reality from fiction.
You've mentioned unlocking energy access, and I think it's incredibly important we highlight that there's an urgent need in Africa for power, a fuel for all forms of development economically and socially. Likewise, we've seen the advancement of LNG-to-Power ventures, and more recently in Ghana. Are such LNG-to-Power ventures important moving forward in terms of opening up energy access in certain locations in Africa?
Absolutely. That is going to be a game changer for a lot of Africa. What does that give you? You would pave the way for you to have a lot of infrastructure development. And that infrastructure that you have, it would also create different kind of multiplier commerce around the value chain. But LNG-to-Power projects are so needed right now. Look, the Tema base there, with, which they having, it's real good. But you need to expand that. You need to expand that into Nigeria. You need to expand that into Angola. You need to expand that into Mozambique. You need to expand that in South Africa, where I am, and to really see how you drive this. Because there is going to be LNG. It's just a possibility of how do you get this LNG into the right kind of infrastructure. It's cleaner, it's better, it's competitive when it comes to pricing, and you can really build long-term power infrastructure that can really power up industries that we need right now and really improve the lives of people. I think we need to move away from this narrative where people think it's just about some fat cats, but our industry does take care of everyday people, and it's about people. And once we do that, we're really improving the lives of people. And I think that's what we love about the gas industry and what it can really do to drive up people.
Let's speak a bit about small-scale LNG. And there's a vast amount of growth in the industry. This really is a game-changer opportunity across Africa to bring both energy access, but also as a fuel for local industry in regions where that's needed. How important is small-scale LNG for such things?
Small-scale LNG should be the main driver in Africa, period. Because you are talking about entrepreneurship. We always talk about local content. You're talking about having a big opportunity where you're going to have a lot of small players who cannot raise the big amounts of dollars for big ticket items. They could be able to run LNG programs on a small scale with barges. You don't need something big. With barges, move it from regions where you have LNG, for example, Equatorial Guinea, for example, Nigeria, in the future, potentially Mozambique and Angola, and really move that around Africa and really be able to power that. What happens? Africans at this moment would become part of the business. Our industry doesn't work when we don't break it down and have small-scale LNG with players all around. Small-scale LNG is going to be the game changer for the African gas sector. And if we don't start using new technologies and new things, then we're missing out.
You mentioned breaking down tariffs there and the countries working together. How important, you suggest energy demand in Africa is going to grow like no other region. Obviously, investment is critical, but also how important is it that those countries do come together and Africa works together as a continent on this?
Would words become deeds that meet needs? I will start by saying that. We have talked a lot about that. There's been a lot of words around there. We need to have more action to it. We need to look at a changing climate. But this is time where we need to hold ourselves accountable. You can't go sign MOUs or sign agreements saying we're going to collaborate, but then you don't come. You can't get in there and have government officials just saying we will do this and without having the private sector in to drive these market-driven principles that could work. They need to collaborate. They need to do more. And I think it's not for someone from Europe or from America telling us what to do. We as Africans have to start holding ourselves accountable. What has dogged us about collaboration in energy, in gas, in LNG is because we as citizens, we in business have just not held politicians accountable, because at the certain part, they are the problem. Okay, I have a lot of friends with politicians. I think they still like me, but they are becoming the problem because they're not collaborating more. Ronald Reagan said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. They need to tear down these tariffs. They need to tear down these barriers. They need to move forward so that we can actually get LNG moving around, but also collaborate on key fiscal issues. I tell you something, I'll stop with this. If we don't collaborate on key fiscal issues within our continent, not just for LNG, gas, and everything, We are living in a changing global market. We're competing today, not just between Nigeria and Angola or EG or Gabon. We're competing with Suriname and Guyana. We're competing with Vietnam. So if the fiscal terms don't come well, you are not going to be able to convince somebody to put in the right kind of money to drill some deep water wells so that you can get that. Nigeria, for example, needs to pass the petroleum industry bill now. There's no need to be triangulating and equivocating and having no excuse. Pass that damn bill so you can get investment into the upstream so that you can monetize on these resources. Collaboration is needed. We need to cut the politics out, and yes, to drive up better governance so that this works.
NJ, what about the energy transition? Because reducing emissions is priority for everyone, but how does a continent like Africa approach it? I mean, how does it balance growth and industrial development whilst also advancing the energy transition?
First of all, the word transition does bothers me a little bit, because you transition when you have something and you move into something. What are we transitioning from and what are we transitioning to? But not to get into legalese, I think I'll bore you with that. But to really look at it, from a very Western perspective, I would just say, let's have a transition that is just, that is fair, and that is equitable, because we want energy that is affordable, accessible, and also cleaner. Nobody questions what you're looking at that. But the key issue you're looking at it is that Europe has admitted possibly 6 times more than Africa. The United States about 15 times more than Africa. China about 20 times more than Africa. India the same. But now Africans, they are being put on a lot more burdens on the energy transitions when it comes to our development. We've been told that we can't use our gas, which is a bridge fuel. They said, well, we can help you, but we have to be very careful what is really going on. The divestment process, which is really happening in there, saying whether it is the World Bank, the IMF, or the DFCs saying they will not put money into fossil fuels. That is going to affect a lot of Africans when it comes into industrial development, because it's a continent where the population is scheduled to increase from 900 million to about 1.5 billion by 2030. Energy access is already weak, so weak right now that 2/3 of the continent is in the dark. They have no hope of even charging their cell phone. Just imagine that 2/3 of any community living is in the dark. And we need to pay attention to that. The biggest problem you see is people using wood and charcoal to burn and all of that. Right now in Africa, you'll be left with that. So we're going to emit more. So the transition has to be just, it has to be fair, it has to be equitable, but we're not seeing that. So there's a lot of words, there's a lot, but we see no deeds, and they are meeting no needs. And if we're not allowed to really get our natural resources to really boost, you're going to need natural resources anyway. So I think the IEA is wrong. I think we cannot put Africa on European and American mandates. They have 2 different histories, 2 different economic positions. And lastly, I would say this: you can't cook with cold grease. You got to let the stove on. So we need to have our stove on so that we can cook in Africa, but we need to do it cleaner and better.
It's fair to say we all want to achieve the same thing, but the timelines and the approaches are different, and it's not a one size that fits all. There's no point us having a world of renewables across Africa if people aren't able to have reliable energy access, are able to turn off their lights, are able to have the feedstocks for chemicals, for medicines, for other materials important to industrialization. And I think that's important that we recognize that and we talk about that and elevate away from just let's move to renewables as quickly as possible. Gas is, as you say, the bridging fuel, and really not just a bridging fuel, but it's the fuel for economic advancement across Africa. And that needs to be built into the plans for Africa, but the mindset for all across the globe as well.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And I think if we don't change that, and I think gas is our way out. Gas is our future. Monetizing LNG is going to be our path to prosperity in Africa.
NJ, I'd like to jump into your journey. It's been an incredibly interesting one, from lawyer to deal maker, negotiator. You oversee an amazing network across Africa of peers and ministers, IOCs, independents, etc. You've been involved in many very important ventures across oil and gas and other related industries across Africa. What are you at the moment most proud of?
What I'm most proud of, man, well, first I'm proud of my wife. You know, I think she picked me, you know, like little old me. And that's the most thing. And I got a daughter and got 2 sons. I think that is my pride and joy. But when it comes to into business, what I'm most proud of is being able to do what most people thought it couldn't be done in Africa. That you could put a lot of young people, train them, invest, and send them to the United Kingdom and the United States and Europe and build a very successful practice that reflects all of Africa, with people from very diverse, majority women. And I think that is really what I think it's very important. But the other ability to give back and to really raise the standards that we can be, that like what Gandhi says, be the change that you want to be and live up to that true meaning of it. I think that is what makes me proud, but also that is also a warning that we still have a lot more to live for every day as we do this work.
You've been a very strong advocate for diversity and women in Africa's energy industry. Why is that so important to you?
Only a fool would ignore 52% of the population that is growing, is getting more educated, spending power, and a big part of our population without including them in the industry. I must apologize for this. My industry that I love so much, I wouldn't have $1 in my pocket today without the oil and gas industry. But my industry has not done a good job when it comes into empowering women and promoting women, breaking the gas ceiling and everything. We've just not done a good job with that. But also when you look at government, we also have not set out the policies that would really encourage it. And I think we need to drive that more. And I think we need to look at that. But we can't just look, most men in the workplace don't understand what it takes for a woman to be at that table, coming there every day, thinking about a family, thinking about kids, and really have to deal with some of the most difficult things we still see in our country, when it comes into domestic violence, when it comes into harassment at the workplace. That is something that it's kind of like a taboo subject. And most African men need to speak a lot to that. We need to engage that. And really start changing that. And that is our job, because when we do that, I am Madam Ayuk's little boy, but if I grew up in a home with a single mother, if she didn't stand up and do what she had to do for 5 boys, I wouldn't be sitting here. And even at the age of 65, last week, she just graduated with a PhD in the United States. That is what inspires me, and that's what drives me every day to say, I got a doggone right to just do more to really see that we got something going. And it's important. It's not something that we have to say. It's not an added bonus. It should be a requirement. And we should have local content, set aside policies for women. If we don't do that, what are we talking energy transition? We are going to be doing a transition with women being left behind. Women are still the last hired and the first fired. But I tell you this, and I end with this. Women don't buy milk cheaper. They don't pay rent lesser. They don't buy plane tickets lesser. So there needs to be that equity and that fairness on how our industry and how our content operates.
NJ, we've spoken about how gas may empower Africa long term. And you certainly lead by example as a change agent, as an advocate for many things. If you look back, when you look back, what's the impact you would like to have on Africa, and what would you most like to be remembered for?
Oh man, you telling me I like writing about other people. I don't like writing about myself. I feel like I just got to Oprah. I think if I look back, I want to see that a young boy who got up in the same streets that I was born and raised in Cameroon could switch the lights on and switch the lights off, could dream about things that never were and hope to achieve, could see our communities and could still feel that in my community, in my home, I can build something better. That beauty doesn't stop from where I am. It starts because I have hope and an ability to achieve that. That young women should not be held back by saying that education is not something that they should hope for. That they can rule and they can lead our continent because men have truly failed us. But we should have women leading. If I should have that chance, that's something I want to go in my grave leading, and maybe having a woman president and having women governors, because we think that that change, it's really important. And I think that's what we must drive, but also look at our continent and look at our continent that is treated fair, just, and with equity in making sure that we do provide energy, because most Africans don't realize one thing. Energy is all part of our lives, baby. We need energy. Whether you got to charge a cell phone or you got to power that industry, but we need it. So we need to focus. I went to law school not dreaming about working in corporate oil and gas lawyer. I wanted to be a human rights lawyer. But today I'm a free market advocate, and I still believe, and I think I'll go to my grave believing free market capitalism is still the best path to prosperity. But we got to make it work. So I'll leave you with this. Dr. King teaches us that the arc of a moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Yes, he's right, but it doesn't bend by itself. We have to make it bend. We have to shift it every day. What we do, we have to shift it. We have to bend it towards that place and get into that righteous place. And I think the energy industry needs people shaping it, bending it towards that place where we can get energy access and we can use our natural resources responsibly and not walk away from the past. We've had a bad past with energy. We've had a bad past with oil and gas, but the past is reference, not residence. We can change that. It's our time to change that to build the Africa that we deserve.
Inspiring words. It's been great to talk to you, and thank you so much for joining us here on LNG TV. And also thank you for watching from NJ, Adam and myself. It's goodbye, and we'll see you again soon.
Frontiers and Pioneers, in association with Sempra LNG.